S. Radhakrishnan, the philosopher president of India, says that the Sikh gurus had the noble quality of appreciating whatever was valuable in other religious traditions. They did not claim to teach a new doctrine. Indeed, Guru Nanak simply elaborated the views of the Vaishnava saints. However, several scholars have pointed out that the Gurus claim to have uttered the divine word. The visionary Puran Singh was convinced that there was no academic resource for the Sikhs equal to the Granth Sahib. Arnold Toynbee, the historian of world civilizations, observes that the Adi Granth means more to the Sikhs than even the Quran to Muslims, the Bible to Christians, and the Torah to Jews. It is a heritage of special value for the world. Interpretation of Guru Nanak's Bani began early with the compositions of his successors and has continued up to the present day. Professor Taran Singh talks of 7 traditions followed by still others. The first was the Sahaj Parnali, represented by Guru Nanak and his successors. Bhai Gurdas represented the Bhai Barnali and the Parmarth Parnali was represented by Miharban, Harji, and Chaturbhuji, the descendants of Priti Charid, the elder brother of Guru Arjan. For the Udas Parnali, Taran Singh mentions Anand Khan and Sadanand. Among the 8 representatives of the Nirmala Parnali are Bhai Santok Singh, Pandit Tara Singh Nartam, and Giani Jian Singh. In the Sampardai Parnali are Bhai Mani Singh, Giani Badan Singh, Bhai Jod Singh, and 10 others. Among the 8 representatives of Singh Sabai Parnali were Bhai Veer Singh, Professor Teja Singh, and Professor Sahib Singh. Thus, there is a vast range of literature on the exegesis of Guru Granth Sahib. European scholars of the Granth Sahib appear on the scene with the extension of colonial rule to the Punjab in the 19th century. The Adi Granth of Ernest Trump offended Sikh sensibilities, both because of its contemptuous tone and its wrong interpretation of the Granth Sahib. Trump's work was followed by that of Max Arthur McAuliffe as a corrective, published by the Clarendon Press in 6 volumes in 1909, as the following: The Sikh religion, its gurus, sacred writings, and authors. Well, apart from the repugnance of the German missionary for a non-Christian faith, McAuliffe refers to the cooperation of a number of Sikh scholars, notably Bhai Khan Singh of Nabha. His work has remained acceptable to the Sikhs to some extent to stop Shah Khan's invasion. Sikh scholars had begun to respond to this new situation. By the beginning of the 20th century, Some of them wrote in English to project their understanding of the Sikh tradition for both Sikhs and non-Sikhs, like Sevaram Singh, Bhagat Lakshman Singh, and Kasan Singh. Jani Badan Singh prepared a commentary on the Granth Sahib for publication under the patronage of Maharaja Bikram Singh of Faridkot as a corrective to Trump's work. Jani Badan Singh makes it clear that the exposition of Guru Granth Sahib by Dr. Trump Sahib was patently wrong, assured. There was a general demand for correct interpretation. The persistent demand for the Faridkot Vala Teka induced Maharaja Brijinder Singh of Faridkot to order the publication of a second edition, which appeared in 1924 in 4 volumes. The Singh Sabha movement provided great impetus for the study of the Guru Granth Sahib in the late 19th and early 20th century. Apart from Bhai Khan Singh of Nabha, whose studies were informed by his understanding of the Guru Granth Sahib, Bhai Veer Singh wrote an elaborate commentary on Guru Granth Sahib, which was published after his death in 1957 in 7 volumes. Santya Siddhi Guru Granth Sahib Ji. Already, the Shabadart Siddhi Guru Granth Sahib Ji had been prepared by Professor Teja Singh by 1941 in consultation with Baba Harkishan Singh and Professor Narayan Singh. It was published from Lahore in 4 volumes. Professor Sahib Singh worked for nearly 4 decades to complete his commentary on Guru Granth Sahib in 1961, which was published in 10 volumes as Sri Guru Granth Sahib Darpan. These 3 commentaries do not exhaust the list of Sikh exegesis of the Granth Sahib, but they do represent Sikh scholarship at its best and therefore become indispensable for the study of Guru Granth Sahib. With the increasing interest of non-Sikhs in the Sikh tradition arose the need for translation of the Guru Granth Sahib. The earliest to appear was Gopal Singh's Sri Guru Granth Sahib, 1960 to 1962, in 4 volumes, followed by Manmohan Singh's Sri Guru Granth Sahib, 1969, in 8 volumes. Professor Gurbachan Singh Talib published his Sri Guru Granth Sahib in English translation in 4 volumes in 1984 to 1990. Both Dr. Gopal Singh and Professor Talib have written long introductions to their work to highlight the salient features of the Guru Granth Sahib. However, the translation by Manmohan Singh appears to be closer to the text. In a critical study of the Adi Granth, Professor Surinder Singh Kohli discusses the language, metres, and imagery of the poetry of the Adi Granth and the musical measures used for singing its hymns. At the same time, he gives a considerable space to the social and religious conditions depicted in the Granth, especially the religious symbols, rituals, and beliefs of Guru Nanak's contemporaries. Two of these sessions relate to the religious ideology of the Adi Granth. In comparison, Professor Guninder Kaur's The Guru Granth Sahib, its physics and metaphysics, is rather thin. She points out that the relationship between the metaphysics and physics of the Guru Granth Sahib has generally been ignored. She gives an exposition of the metaphysics of the Guru Granth Sahib in terms of the ultimate reality, world, and man. Its physics is discussed in terms of its structure, language, imagery, and rhythm. The history of the compilation of the Adi Granth and the creation of the Sikh canon is the chief concern of Professor Gurinder Singh Mann in the making of Sikh scripture. He discusses the evolution of the structure of the Adi Granth in terms of the sequencing of rags and the internal arrangement within the rag sections to bring out its structural complexity, which distinguishes it from other religious compilations of the time. He comments on the authority, the role, and future prospects of the Guru Granth Sahib. Professor Pashauda Singh deals with the same subject in the Guru Granth Sahib, canon, meaning, and authority. For the meaning, he talks of the various traditions, Parnalis, and discusses its role in Sikh worship and Sikh ceremonies and its function as the Guru. The bulk of his work relates to canon formation. He covers much common ground with G.S. Mann, but their understanding is different on a number of important points. Pashauda Singh has devoted a total chapter of his life and work of Guru Arjan to the Adi Granth, in which he pays special attention to the structure of the Adi Granth. The Bhagat Bani is discussed in great detail in his The Bhagats of the Guru Granth Sahib, Sikh Self-Definition, and the Bhagat Bani. The Guru Granth Sahib has now begun to be seen as important for interfaith dialogue. At an international seminar on Guru Granth Sahib Interfaith Understanding to World Peace, held at Guru Nanak Dev University in December 2003, a number of papers related to interfaith dialogue and religious pluralism. At an international seminar held at the Punjab University in February 2004, the Guru Granth Sahib was discussed in terms of its formation, its unique status, and its place among the major scriptures of the world. Some of the papers compare the Guru Granth Sahib with the Vedas, the Buddhist Tipitaka, the Tamil Prabandhas, and the Quran. 3 papers relate to Bhagat Bani, Rag, organization, and the gender discourse. Professor J.P.S. Oberoi, in his inaugural address, draws attention to the theory of the name as the philosophy of Sikhism. He suggests that the name in Sikhism is not meant merely or chiefly for designation of entities. It is a definition of the relation between the part and the whole, the subject and the object of worship, service, and self-sacrifice. Suffice it to say that one can argue, and one might be right, to claim that the notion of identity, the definition of identity, the experience of a human form of life, of identity, the benefits of identity, the marvelous wonders that await for the human in terms of identity, don't come from using titles to define words. In fact, one of the approaches in Western culture to Akkad is that Akar is here to heal the human body. It's an opportunity, the human body. Nobody chooses to be a dog, nobody chooses to be a human, nobody chooses to be the birds. It's just an opportunity. There is a star outside in outer space, and that star is given an opportunity, comes down to Earth, and by destiny, by magic, and by other esoteric means, we can understand and explain that we are given the human opportunity. And therefore, we don't need, this is controversial, but in some sense, we don't need names. We need Nam. And therefore, to me, the translation of the Akar Nam, of the Akar, not properly, the word Nam becomes extremely complex, extremely difficult, because as I try to express these thoughts, my experience of human life comes to mind, and what has helped me get stronger, get more accurate, get more precise in my thought, filtering my thoughts, healing when I was sick from certain diseases, maladies, confusions, all kinds of diseases. What has healed me truly was Nam, and it is a process. From it is a process that behaves by going from point A to point B, and we will have to agree. We will have to agree, or starting at the point in which we agree, that identity doesn't reflect materialism. Identity cannot project property, ownership, entitlement. It is a bit of an absurd definition for the word identity, but that's how Western languages have been built. Not because Western languages need or have the need to be materialistic, but because their logic of the nature of the human opportunity is inconsistent or sometimes incomplete. We find other religions and other cultures and other traditions in which the name for God literally means a person who is the owner of their democracies, their societies, their guarantees of the, for example, guaranteeing the rights only to the masses, or leaving behind the small communities to have no rights, or only small communities have the right to money, the access to resources, among others, and therefore comes democracy saying no, let's push in equal opportunities for everybody. Let's not the government of the rich, or this kind of concepts that injure our planet. And identity, in Western terms, and since I'm gonna be speaking in English, identity often is associated to materialism, to attachment. Um, but the correct definition that I have found is useful in my purpose of life, to find my purpose of life, to stay motivated, to keep on the right track. There's plenty of wrong tracks. It is a bit like the mushrooms. Some people claim that eating mushrooms is very good for their health. I have mixed feelings about it, because a basic experiment on biological sciences proves that mushrooms are not dangerous per se. Mushrooms are deadly, which are, and explains a substantial definition between being dangerous and being deadly with a simple example. If you eat a mushroom, nothing happens. It's 20 days after that the story begins. I think, in the same sense, we will have to depart a bit from the idea of identity and define identity the following way. Identity is the caliber of the relationship that you have with a concar. And one can argue that, yeah, but that does not include the atheists. It does include the atheists. The planet includes the atheists. The creation includes the atheists. When it rains over everybody. When the new ocean the new ocean, in, I don't know, in 30 million years is gonna be created, all the atheists will have the right to enjoy that ocean, and the new forest and the new piece of soil will be created from the cosmic energy that we say thank you, others say is scientific. But the distinction here, before we continue, is not that we require materialistic evidence, practical evidence of the existence of God to have a personal development, a human development process, a spiritual development, a mental development as human beings. We don't require materialism to explain God. And even further, reducing it to the word God simplifies so many details, excludes so many details. It's like somebody says, I don't believe in God, is like using a rich audio file with the extension WAVE or AIFF or CAF, or this big uh, super rich, high quality, high definition, high resolution audio files where every detail that you hear is so pristine, and then you compare it with an MP3 file where you barely hear the voice, but there is no richness, there is no distinction of the details between the bass line or the drum set with other instruments. It oversimplifies it, and it mutilates a little and sacrifices certain qualities, certain nature to obtain a smaller size of the file. Likewise, saying that God exists does not exist because you don't have a practical evidence that is material that you can touch is very Anglican, because there will never be a check that says 2,000 for you. The house wins, the house always wins, so God sent you a check. It's not that kind of evidence, it's not that kind of proof. Most atheist people claim that the mind does not exist, that they have no mind, but it has been proved in Ayurveda that the mind, what we ordinarily call with the word mind, it's a very ordinary word, a very ordinary way of saying things, and remember that Western languages are very ordinary and incomplete. But the word mind refers to the following definition: neural electric interaction of signaling inside the brain, and therefore we are conscious of what's around us, what surrounds us. And this notion of interconnectivity, interaction, intercommunication, if you will, is describing the origin, the situation, the status, the activity monitor, basically, of the neurons inside your brain. Therefore, if you have neurons inside your brain, you have a mind because you're a human. There is no such atheist concept as that the mind does not exist. I mean, you can act like, that doesn't exist for me. I don't need it. I don't want it. But it's still there, waiting for you to discover it, to enjoy it, to make it better for you, to have an opportunity to improve based on its learnings, to tame it. And once we agree that there is mind, we can agree that if we claim that we require a practical material evidence of the existence of God, we agree that we are going to come to a pharmaceutical approach in which we interrupt the human body when it needs to restore a process, when it needs to rebuild something. Remember, every night at 9 p.m., after Shabbat Kriya, after Kirtan Soila, it starts a new process of restoring, reconstructing, rebuilding the entire scenery, and the next day you begin anew. It's a new opportunity. You could have stopped right there and woke up, and other people say, "Well, he didn't pass. He didn't pass. He didn't made it. He is now on the kingdom of the darkness, beyond the stars. Uh, Nature has called on his human opportunity. Let's give him or her a funeral." But no, we are here. We are given the opportunity again because it reconstructed, because it restored without interruption. Pharmaceutical approach is interrupting the process to make the effects destroy somehow the benefits, but kill the pain as quick as possible. And it has a danger a dangerous statement. It states that anytime you have a pain, you can pharmaceutically approach it. And it is dangerous. That statement is very dangerous because why if someone believes it, right? So the point is not to interrupt the human body, the point is to allow it to restore however long it takes. And it has been proved by Ayurveda medicine that it takes a long time. For example, if you are fat, if you have, I don't know, 7 kilograms extra on your body, doing Kundalini yoga, for example, doing Satkriya, doing one that's my favorite, which is Navi Kriya, with some meditations during 1000 years, is gonna help you a lot. But it takes probably 3 years to start lowering the weight that you gain. In our case, the pharmaceutical approach will tell you, no, you can do it in 1 week, it doesn't matter, there's other options, it's more quickly, life is gonna end sometime soon, you don't have to, let's interrupt it. So, different definitions. And therefore, in this definition and in this acceptance and in this formalism, we don't interrupt things. There is a hukam. And we, as scientists, as kirtanis, as development of our societies, we are not willing to change hukam. We're willing to embrace it. But since in Western culture there is no concept for hukam, there is no translation for hukam basically, and it is not taught in school to not defy the laws of the origin, the laws of nature, the laws of physics, the laws of cosmology, of astronomy. Since there is no educational approach to it, most pharmaceutical laboratories defy those instances of life to get profit, to convince people, to make a business, to corporate greed. And so it is very dangerous and very hostile planet Earth for the human opportunity. For other cases, it might be a kind race, simple pace, life treated you kindly, results come steady, slowly, but they come, and you start learning, growing, gaining authority over yourself, discovering yourself, and knowledge about yourself becomes certain. Now you can filter your thoughts, now you can filter involuntary actions, involuntary feelings, involuntary reactions, involuntary emotions, all these type of things that come so rooted in problem handling situations. And therefore identity is the relationship that you have with your mind through Eckankar. I had to do all this big explanation to tell you that the distance between you and Ek is a curve. And if we name that curve Eckankar or identity, or even better, what about the dot product of itself? Like Eckankar identity, like Eckankar is my identity, Eckankar is where I begin, Eckankar is where everything begins, Eckankar is where I will start. Every time I have to start is gonna be Eckankar. And if you develop a relationship about it, if you develop a relationship in the sense, a personal relationship, like it's the best example I can find. Like you think about it as a friendship or as a marriage. The marriage is the highest form of yoga. You have to be flexible. for conversation, for dialogue, for ideas formulation, for situation appraisal, for whatever many things. You have to be flexible. You have to adapt, because it is said that if one does not adapt, one gets extinguished. So the flexibility there comes in a more mental state and situation, but still present. And as long as one is flexible, not so rigid with the conversation, not so rigid with the argumentation and the values and the things that one wants to express and to share, and that want to invite others to enjoy, uh, there is a relationship being built. Or there is other approaches, like the ones I was mentioning. It doesn't matter, it doesn't exist, it doesn't change my life, I don't need them. Or developing a relationship is important, but more important is developing the caliber of that relationship. And the caliber of that relationship, how truth, how honest, how transparent that relationship with the origin of the laws of nature, namely egg, how transparent, how good is that relationship, can be measured by doing Kundalini meditations. The Tattvic construct that is present inside your mind, inside my mind, inside every other person's mind, holds definitions, holds, even better, holds language, a language that only you can speak. And since there are other human beings, it implies the fact that there are certain common languages that are shared. Maybe not common, but they are shared. We have to interact with each other. We cannot say, I don't know, some people in politics say it's communist against capitalist, but that description is so incoherent. It can show that a person is ignorant, that has no studies, that has no education, because a very intelligent rich person will say is the communist versus, not against, versus the individualist, the one who doesn't have anything to do with community, has nothing to do with anybody, depends on nobody, has no idea how the world has shaped and formed. He don't need universities, he don't need institutions, he don't need hospitals, he don't need food, he can provide almost everything. That's community or the individual. That's simple. But to join this relationship with our concepts and to finish a little this introduction into why the identity is important, I hope that I dream that one can excel at this measuring of the caliber of that relationship. And since we are all different universe in different positions, we are all stars orbiting something else. In some cases, we don't know what we are orbiting. We are in the search and discovery for that. And we have these shared languages. We start, as a mathematician will do, but without the notion of calculator, without the notion of devices for mechanical computation in the mind, in the human mind. And intrinsically done, the ACAD allows you to start by defining. You can make, you can create, you can build definitions. You start describing how the world is around you, with the emphasis on healing the human body, healing the human opportunity, restoring, reconstructing, rebuilding, healing the human mind, purifying the mind, purifying the body. It is a temple, it is sacred. You cannot put my life in danger, I cannot put other person's lives in danger. All these sort of constructs come to mind and come to that place because we are constructing definitions. we're describing the world that's around us. The next step will be explanations. Why the world is the way it is. And therefore, some people might say, no, all philosophers are atheists. To my knowledge, I haven't found any useful text, argument, fundamental definition, language, or rule, or explanation of the world done by an atheist that can heal my body. Only Akar. Akar Enam, Akar Esala. And so that's me making an opinion there. Maybe other person can say, no, all negation of the world is better than anything. But as the world evolves into a more developed human opportunity, into a more developed human experience, and the cognitive aspect grows, we start to explain and to understand our explanations. And so why the world is the way it is? How is it that the world is going to make it comes the part of the rules that we formulate. So we create, we define, and then we give explanations, and then we formulate rules. It's like building mathematics for the human mind, for purifying the human mind, and contribute to the Sangat, and contribute to the Gurdwara, and contribute to Kirtan, and contribute, and never stop giving. Well, that's a little of my definition, because in my natal chart it is one of the important aspects of my natal chart is to not so much to construct but to give. That's an important quality of my origin that I have to give. And so I'm always talking about contributing. You have to contribute. You have something you can offer. You have something you can share. You have something you can define. You have something you can explain, and you have something upon which you can formulate certain rules to make it better, to make those languages, those shared languages, work together and comprehend Ek, comprehend Nab, and therefore start your life in search of it. And if you measure it by saying, I have 14 years of Kundalini Yoga meditation all night, all morning, I don't need them, I have a rehat, then you can start saying, okay, I have certain caliber based on excellence. I should define the world that surrounds me. I should give explanation, and I should formulate rules for my language that other languages can relate to. And that starts to scratch the surface, maybe, of what identity should be. So as you see, from a Western perspective, explaining identity becomes a daunting task, becomes so difficult. But with the words we have in English, with the concepts that we have in a dictionary in English, I think I can approach it somehow. If I made any mistakes, well, you can correct me in the comments. But essentially, the main idea is that of excellence, of caliber, of discipline, but probably in a after, once you surrender your ego to the sun, to the origin of the sun, let's say the origin of youth in astrology, it is said, in moon theory, it is said that the sun is the origin of youth and the moon is the origin of wisdom. You choose which you surrender your ego to, but do it constantly, do it and be consistent about it, and do it often, so that one day it happens. Sometimes some people are clever about themselves one day and they feel good, and then at the other day they have a horrible attitude towards other people, and it is difficult to explain why. But what's easy is to perceive them. And it's like, we have to calm down this person. We have to do the impossible or the possible or whatever is at hand to time machine him backwards, retrodict the past, and locate him in a position where he is exactly as yesterday. And therefore, in basics of Siki, you very often say hear that Siki has no special days, no special weeks, no special months. It is an all-time thing that you enjoy daily. It's like Pog, it's like the Langar, is like everything that comes to feed your mind is something that you enjoy. Given the first step might be a little heavy and feels strange and like I have to do it again. But once you're into it, your mind is not gonna tell you I have to fulfill you again, I have to make you feel free again, I have to give you Nam again, I have to give you Ek again. No, it flows naturally. And from the tool, I know this is a very strict and rigid word that will fall by its own weight, but discipline. I know it's not the correct way to approach it, but maybe discipline can be a suggestion word here. The correct word can be Pog, to enjoy what's already there for you to keep enjoying the experience of life, but discipline in the sense that you are constant, that you are often enjoying, that you're often receiving. And as such, a caliber of excellence in your relationship with the origin allows you to comprehend Ek, to obtain Nam, and that's your identity. Based on that, we can touch on the subject of worship, service, self-sacrifice, to be not only useful for you and for others, but also that sometimes I felt inspired in the past by the result of the projects of other people. Watching the results of projects of older people than me, it told me something. It told me like this person is successful in evaluating their projects and their ideas and how their projection works and how the projection of an idea is a cloud, like the ones on the sky. They have matter, they have fiber, they have electricity. They're in the mind, but so exact same concept applies for a cloud. And they never fall to the ground and crash and break in two or three parts because of the heat against the floor. No. The projection is so solid, so established, so well projected, redundantly enough, but it's so well projected, the projection that, or better yet, the source of their projection is so much excellence, so much caliber, that those clouds remain forever there. And those clouds now are defined by projects, by company, by development, by an institution, by any materialization of an idea is there on the heavens, and there is no way to take it down from there. Even if the walls fall, they will fall over clouds. They will not fall to the ground, and therefore the Zoroastrian in some texts say there are giant castles built over the clouds, and the clouds are so strong they resist them. Or some other people say, I have only 1 penny in my pocket, the rest is on the cloud. So like that, projecting oneself and projecting the identity, but also developing it for oneself. Professor Harjit Singh Gill, in his keynote, made preliminary remarks on A, the sanctity of the divine word, B, the unique form of the Adi Granth in its formal and conceptual structure, C, the transformation of a spoken language into an idiom of metaphysical truths, which, I don't know, in the Western cultures, the tradition is to disrespect the word metaphysical. That's the tradition. Disrespect, laugh, make jokes about it, make fun of the people who believe in metaphysical from a serious point of view. That's very tradition. That's very traditional. So you say metaphysical and everybody starts making jokes. That's in the Western. I don't know in other cultures. But again, we will have to come to personal development and how personal development influences spiritual development, having a base in the Adi Granth. D. The critique of corruption, falsehood, and deception that mark the contemporary social fabric, and E. The critique of rites and rituals, customs, and conventions in contemporary religion. Professor Gill observes that the compositions of Guru Nanak, starting with Arbad Narbad Dund Hukara and Gagan Mae Tal, present two sides of the same conceptual construct. In one, we are led progressively to the anthropological inequalities and injustice. In the other, a blissful vision of the cosmos is juxtaposed with the chaotic state of anthropology. There is dialectical interrelation between the sublimity of the cosmic domain and the harsh realities of earthly life. This conceptual construct does not separate the human from the divine for understanding the Guru Granth Sahib. It is necessary to explore the equilibrium between anthropology and cosmology. Cosmology be understood as a side of mathematics or algebra, complex algebra with complex numbers and complex things, in a sense of multidimensional graphicking, explaining it in a blackboard, rather than understanding it as physics, because then in physics we will have to relate to matter, and therefore the analogy in terms of ritual or religious or personal or human development will fall apart. So it's a side of mathematics. Leave it at a theoretical science for a second. The scholarly legacy is rich in terms of perspectives, approaches, and themes related to the study of the Granth Sahib. To figure prominently in this legacy are the religious, social, and political environment of Guru Nanak, the philosophy and theology of the Gurus, their conception of the goal of life, and the means of attaining this goal, the history and structure of the Adi Granth, and the significance of the inclusion of the Bhagat Bani, the status of the Adi Granth and its relevance for interfaith dialogue. In the present study of the Guru Granth Sahib, the starting point is the session on the concern of Guru Nanak and his successors with contemporary social order, polity, and religion, reflecting their social awareness. This awareness springs essentially from their conception of God and liberation in life, which are taken up into two separate sessions later. Most of the theological ideas of the Gurus get related to their conception of God, and most of their social concerns get related to their conception of liberation. The conception of God and liberation in life result in a new social order, the Sikh Panth, based on the principle of equality. There is much concern in the Guru Granth Sahib for the new fraternity. Therefore, the emerging Panth will be discussed in a separate session. In a chapter that I want to mention on the structure of Guru Granth Sahib, I will take special attention to the Rag organization, the poetic forms, and the Bhagat Bani. The history and status of the Guru Granth Sahib can be discussed on a session about the Guru Eternal, together with its relevance for interfaith dialogue. And I think finally the most familiar compositions of the Gurus will be introduced on a one last session. Yeah.